Now, while we are in our root definitions for our app module, what I want to talk about is this concept of a wildcard selector alongside our path. First, we need to demonstrate the use case of a wildcard. So let's assume that we perhaps have an old URL or a misspelled URL. And for example, we could say ADDMIN and spell admin incorrectly. We can then hit enter. We then have a completely broken application. So if we jump in our console, we then have uncaught in promise, cannot match any roots, URL segment admin. Now this doesn't apply to just a single spelling mistake. We could have all of our roots, which are then not going to match. So how could we supply an essential catch-all that's then going to either redirect somewhere, or we could display a component? Now, personally, I like to just redirect somewhere because I don't see much value in having a URL just simply display a component that says, unfortunately, this page doesn't exist. Unless you've got a website, for example, that's being server-side rendered, then it makes complete sense. So it might be that we want to then, for example, if we're inside our admin and we spell donuts incorrectly, we then want to just pick up on it and redirect somewhere else. So what we can do is create a wildcard selector as a path itself. So let's hit path. Now, instead of specifying an asterisk, we in fact specify 2 asterisks with Angular. We can then say redirect to, and we're going to redirect to our admin root. So let's hit save and see this in motion. Let's go back to the URL. We can spell things incorrectly, and we have that redirect, which has now been applied. Of course, we can provide this on the root level. We could also specify the redirect with the wildcard selector inside of our child array as well. So you have a pretty high level and infinite control over where you want to take your users based on a certain action they may be taking, whether they mean to or not. We've now covered using path match of full with our path as empty, and also a wildcard selector with a nice redirect to, which keeps users in our application. Now, if you imagine we are inside an authentication module, we go to login, which is spelled incorrectly. I don't really assume that we want to then go back to the root page of our application. I don't think that would make sense. Whereas if we're already in our auth module, it probably makes sense to then take them to the login page. So that's just an example of using a wildcard selector and some ideas of why you want to use them.